Good morning, everyone.
I'm Asmi.
And I am Priya.
We wanted to take the initiative, along with the help of our teachers, to raise awareness about sustainable development and the 17 ideals.
To start off, we would love to give a shout out to AFS, American Field Services, as we are hosting this program with their help. This is the Cyril Taylor's Award for Sustainable Development. AFS, American Field Services. It was founded by Stephen Gorati in 1941. It is an international youth exchange organization consisting of over 50 independent non-profit organizations, each with its own network of volunteers. AFS focuses on intercultural learning, enabling people to act as responsible global citizens working towards peace and understanding in a diverse world. While acknowledging that peace is a dynamic concept that is threatened by injustice, inequity, and intolerance, ultimately, AFS seeks to affirm faith in the dignity and worth of every human being and of all nations and cultures. Now, I would like to call upon Asmi to brief you a little bit about sustainable development.
Sustainable development. I'm sure we've all heard of it, but do all of us really know what it is? Well, according to the Brundtland Commission report, it is development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. Essentially, we cannot exhaust our resource base. A lot of you here might think that sustainable development focuses solely on the environment. This is a common misconception. There are 4 dimensions to sustainable development, which are society, environment, culture, and economy. And all of these are interlinked, which means that action in any one of them will lead to outcomes in another. When all of this started was in 2016, when 17 developmental goals were decided upon by the UN. These were to give the basic framework, or rather the blueprint, to achieve a better, more sustainable future for all. These global goals aim to provide access to the most basic of services, such as sanitation, education, water. The plan was to achieve all of these goals by 2030, just 8 years away, which is why it has become absolutely undeniably necessary for us to act fast. We must get closer to achieving these goals and saving our planet. Now, a question I'm sure you'd all like to ask. Where do we begin? I say, right here, right now. Good morning to everyone who chose to tune in today. Although all 17 goals are important, we will be focusing on those on which we can act at a household level. With this, I'd like to call Abhimanyu to brief us about the first goal, no poverty.
The United Nations has listed no poverty as its #1 goal under the organization's Sustainable Development Goals. It aims to eradicate extreme poverty for all, everywhere, by 2030. In order for us to understand why this is so important, let us first understand what poverty is. The dictionary definition of poverty is the state of one who lacks a socially acceptable amount of money or material possessions. However, poverty is more, much more than just not having enough money. Poverty is hunger. Poverty is lack of shelter. Poverty is being sick and not being able to see a doctor. Poverty is not having access to school, not knowing how to read. Poverty is not having a job. It's fear for the future, living one day at a time. Good morning, I'm Abhimanyu Bhargava, and today I'm speaking on the #1 goal under the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, no poverty. In 2015, it was estimated that 10% of the world's population lived on less than $2 a day. Not having access to the basics, clean water and basic nutrition, being exposed to infectious diseases without proper medical treatments, results in children being malnourished and physically and mentally underdeveloped. And as adults, these children fail to reach their complete potential. The question then arises, why eradicating poverty requires everyone's attention? Aside from the obvious need for us to care for our fellow humans, the answer is economic benefit. For those who are not empathetic, not moved by the suffering of the poor, let me place a different argument. For any economic growth or progress, one of the most important requirements is skilled human resources. In order for us to have skilled workers, we would need healthy, suitably educated or trained adults. And as long as a segment of our population is living in poverty, that segment's contribution to the growth of the economy is severely limited. Without the aid of others who are more well-to-do, whether they be nations or humans, humanity cannot progress. A child that goes to bed hungry is more likely to dream of a belly full of food rather than a mission to Mars or a cure for cancer. In conclusion, it behoves us as a race to help our fellow humans out of poverty if we want to evolve. Eradicating poverty is not an act of charity, it's a act of justice and the key to unlocking enormous human potential. Now I'd like to call upon Arushi to talk about Sustainable Development Goal number 2.
8.9% of the world. That's approximately 80 million people. If this doesn't already feel like too much, 1 of every 9th person goes to bed hungry every night. Good morning, everyone. I'm Arshi Harnatka, and I'm going to talk about Sustainable Development Goal number 2, Zero Hunger. But we should have been closer to achieving zero hunger by 2030. We're only getting worse. Hunger is still the leading cause of death, and these numbers are only set to increase by about 60 million in the next 5 years. To put a stop to this and to truly increase the urgency of the situation into people is why we have this goal. This aims to promote sustainable agriculture with modern technology and fair distribution system so we can sustain the world's population and make sure that no one has to go hungry again. Now, what can we do about it? Donations are the most basic way of helping, but we can go a step further and buy local in-season fruit. Even better, we can try growing some of our own. Staying vegetarian once a week does not just reduce the harmful impact the meat industry has on the environment, but is also proven to have health benefits. Small steps such as that of ours could mean the difference between life and death to many. I urge each and every one of you to put some thought into it and realize the weight of the situation. Thank you. Now, I would like to call upon Amaka Pannu to speak about SDG number 4, quality education.
Thank you, Arashi. Education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. Nelson Mandela. One child, one teacher, one pen, and one book can change the world. Malala Yousafzai. The more you read, the more you'll know. The more you'll know, the more places you'll go. Dr. Seuss. What is education? Well, according to the Oxford Dictionary, it is the process of receiving or giving systematic education, especially at a school or university. Alternatively, it is also defined as an enlightening experience. Personally, I prefer the latter. Good morning, I'm Amal Pannu, and I'm going to be talking about Sustainable Development Goal 4, Quality Education. Goal 4 aims at providing an equitable and inclusive education and promotes learning opportunities for everyone. It aims to ensure quality education to all children and adults by 2030 at primary, pre-primary, secondary, and university levels. This goal will ensure equal access to people of all genders, ethnicities, races, and backgrounds. It also seeks to increase the supply of qualified teachers, including through international cooperation for teacher training in developing countries. Before the coronavirus crisis, projections showed that more than 200 million children would be out of school, and only about 60% of young people would be completing upper secondary education by 2030. By April 2020, close to 1.6 billion children and youth were out of school, and nearly 369 million children who relied on school for daily meals had to look for other sources for daily nutrition. So we've talked about statistics, but why does education really matter? Education is the key that will allow many other sustainable development goals to be achieved. When people are able to get quality education, they can break from the cycle of poverty. Education, therefore, helps to reduce inequalities and to reach gender equality. It empowers people to live healthier and more sustainable lifestyles. Education is crucial to fostering tolerance between people and contributes to more peaceful societies. Tell me and I forget. Teach me and I remember. Involve me and I learn. Thank you. Now I'd like to call upon Niharika Singhal to talk about gender equality.
Thank you, Amma. If I were to ask whether everyone here supports gender equality, I'm pretty sure 99% of you would say yes. But I want you to think of the times you've hesitated when you see a girl in a wrestling competition or see a boy wear a dress. If you've experienced this feeling, then unfortunately you need to think twice before you say you believe in equality. And if you haven't, then congratulations, because people like you can help me change the minds of those who have. Now, growing up, I believed that equality was more of a general topic till I was proven wrong by my third grade teacher who told me to sit like a girl in the classroom. I could go on talking about how inequality is unacceptable, but it's important to understand the moral reasons behind our basic human rights. And with that, I'd like to say a very good morning to everyone present here. I'm Niharika from class 10, and today I'm going to talk about something that we as humans deserve, and that's gender equality. On 9th October 2012, Malala Yousafzai and two other girls were shot by a Taliban gunman simply because they stood up for their right to education. J.K. Rowling, the author of the famous book series called Harry Potter, had to go by male pen names such as Robert Galbraith because if people found out she was a woman, the books might not sell. Similarly, a boy in this world is not allowed to express his emotions only because it is labeled as weak or sensitive. These are real-life experiences of real people not being treated right just because they make decisions that are necessary for their livelihood. Gender bias is something that undermines our social fabric and devalues all of us. It's not just a human rights issue. It's a tremendous waste of the world's human potential. By denying people equal rights, we deny half the population a chance to live life at its fullest. After a research on equality, I observed women are still much more likely than men to not receive proper education. They have less access to property ownership, credit, training, and employment. This partly stems from the archaic stereotypes of women being labeled as childbearers and homemakers rather than the breadwinners of the family. On this site called Women's Right Amnesty International, I came across data on how in the northeast Nigeria, child marriage is common and how 3 out of 4 girls are married before they turn 18. About 3 out of 5 women have been married in the Democratic Republic of Congo, experience violence from their own husband or partner. More than 70% of the women and girls in northern Iraq don't have a say on their own body and have their body parts mutilated or are sexually harassed. Stories like these remind me that gender equality is important for the sake of humanity. Gender equality does not mean that men and women become the same, only that access to opportunities and life changes is neither dependent on nor constrained by their sex. Gender equality is a prominent part of the Sustainable Development Goals for 2030. It is part of Ideal 5, and its aim is to achieve gender equality and empower women and girls. Sustainable development is being able to make the world a better place for the future generations, and gender equality is an important factor of it. Achieving gender equality requires women's empowerment to ensure that decision-making at private and public levels and access to resources are no longer weighted in men's favor, so that both women and men can fully participate as equal partners in this world. Thank you. I would now like to call upon Devaya to talk on the topic clean water and sanitation.
Good morning, I'm K. Devaya, and today I will be speaking to you about clean water, sanitation, and basic hygiene. Hygiene is an important factor of life and isn't given enough importance. The world suffers from various problems such as terrorism, corruption, and violence. But the most lethal problem of all is of the population being affected due to the lack of sanitary and hygiene facilities. The health of citizens of a country is as important as its economical growth for its development. Billions of people in the world still lack access to basic services like clean water and sanitation. In the entire world's population, 59.7% of the people don't receive clean water and sanitary facilities. Furthermore, only 1 in 3 people have access to safe drinking water. The COVID-19 pandemic has demonstrated the importance of sanitation, hygiene, and adequate access to clean water. Hand hygiene saves lives. According to WHO, hand washing is one of the most effective ways to reduce the spread of pathogens and infections, and billions of people lack safe water for sanitation due to inadequate funding. Sanitary napkins for women is also an essential commodity, and the importance of menstrual hygiene isn't appreciated by majority of the people in the world. In India, only 57.6% of women use sanitary napkins. People without access end up with urinary tract infection and various other diseases. 673 million people practice open defecation. The need to spread awareness for hygiene and sanitation hasn't been as important as it is now. Now, Gia is going to speak to you about the next Sustainable Development Goal.
Thank you, Dev. Good morning. My name is Gia, and I'm going to talk about Sustainable Development Goal 12, Responsible Consumption and Production. SDG 12 is one of the most important goals required to achieve sustainable development in the next few years. It mainly focuses on the efficient management of our natural resources and the way we dispose of toxic wastes and pollutants. The main problem that this goal faces is an increase in consumption and production patterns, which is mainly due to an increase in technological efficiency. Because of this, many products like cars, TVs, and light bulbs have become more efficient and often cheaper. In response to this, we have been consuming them a lot more. Instead of using one light bulb, we are now using multiple LEDs in many places. And instead of using public transport or carpooling, each individual now has their own private vehicle. As a result, our roads are becoming more congested, making our commute even less sustainable. This creates a rebound effect that needs to be neutralized. Now, moving on to production patterns. Each product has a background and a foreground system. We tend to focus more on the foreground system and how it affects the environment, completely neglecting the background systems, which are, in reality, the environmental impact hotspots. Let us take something as simple as a beverage in a plastic bottle, like Coke or Sprite, as an example. The focus has always been on the plastic bottle and how it should be treated, whereas, in reality, it is the corn syrup used to make the beverage that is the environmental impact hotspot. Now, the solutions to these problems given by the UN may seem like they are beyond the reach of ordinary citizens like you or me, but I assure you that that is not the case. Following the 3 R's, reduce, reuse, recycle, separating waste at a household level, spreading awareness, reducing wastage, and consuming and producing only what is necessary are some ways in which you can help. I want to conclude by asking you all to think about your own consumption patterns and ask yourselves, what are the environmental impact hotspots in the products that I consume? Are there better alternatives to these products? And most importantly, do I really need them? Thank you. Now I'd like to call upon Anayadha to talk about life below water.
Hello everyone, my name is Anayadha. I'm from class 10 and I will be talking about the 14th Sustainable Development Goal, life below water. A huge problem in today's world that we are all aware of is water pollution. Other than that, there are many other factors that impact the life below water, such as depletion of fisheries by overfishing, loss of coastal habitats through climate change, acidification of the ocean, and much more. Over 3 billion people depend on marine and coastal biodiversity for their livelihoods. However, according to statistics, an entire 30% of marine habitats have been destroyed. Each minute, 15 tons of plastic is released into the ocean. 20% of coral reefs have been destroyed irreversibly, and over 8 million tons of plastic waste is thrown into the oceans every year. If this continues, then by 2050, the weight of the plastic will be more than that of fish. Some things that you can do to save the life below water are 1. Mind your carbon footprint. 2. Reduce energy conservation. 3. Make safe and sustainable seafood choices. 4. Use fewer plastic products. And 5. Support organizations that are working to protect the ocean. Now, let's watch a trailer of the Netflix documentary, My Octopus Teacher.
I remember the day when it all started, seeing this really strange thing. A lot of people say an octopus is like an alien. strange thing is, as you get closer to them, you realize that you're very similar in a lot of ways. It's a hard thing to explain, but sometimes you just get a feeling and you know there's something to this creature that's very unusual. There's something to learn here. I had to have a radical change in my life. And the only way I knew to do it was to be in this ocean with her. And then I had this crazy idea. What happens if I just went every day? But you realize that there's a line that can't be crossed. Thinking about your own vulnerability, worried about your family or child. I hadn't been a person that was overly sentimental towards animals before. I realized I was changing. My relationship with people, with humans, was changing. What she taught me was to feel that you're part of this place, not a visitor. That's a huge difference.
Hello everyone, I'm Priya Sundaram of Class 10, and I would like to talk about the 16th ideal, that is peace, justice, and strong institutions. After the pandemic began, justice rates have gone down drastically. What are we doing about it? Something, but we have to do more, and that exactly is the issue. Child trafficking, corruption, bribery, human rights defenders ending up miraculously dead. The list goes on and on. It's hilarious how in high-income countries, the bribery percentage is only at 7.2%, but in low-income countries, it's all the way at 37.6%. Under this Sustainable Development Goal, there are 10 more goals that the UN wishes to achieve by 2030. A few being the reduction of violence, international homicides, conflict of institutions, part of the population that is subjugated to physical violence, sexual violence, and psychological violence. Everyone deserves an equal shot at anything that they try for or attempt for. Where can we start with the change? Small steps, stopping any sorts of violence that we see, or if we are partaking in it, to absolutely stop. If anyone accepts bribes or gives away those bribes, think twice, because that just adds to the corruption of the world. Bribery, it may seem to get us far now, but in the long run, it's going to be one of our greatest weaknesses that can be highly exploited. Why exactly do we need peace? Maintaining peace and harmony helps create a safer environment for our future generations, and ourselves as well for that matter. It seems right for everyone to have a safe and protected childhood, but at the same time, not to. Injustice should not be the cause of a deprived childhood. We should try to accomplish the goals that the United Nations has set for us, since they are reasonable and ones that everyone can follow to make the world a better place. Everyone can do their bit, right here and right now. We can start in our own houses and try to create awareness on many platforms. And this is exactly what Goal 16 is about: peace, justice, and strong institutions. Thank you. I would like to call upon Ridhani to talk about climate action.
Thank you, Priya. Good morning. I am Ridhani Ganesh, and I'll be speaking on Sustainable Development Goal number 13, climate action. It is one of 17 Sustainable Development Goals established by the United Nations in 2015. The official mission statement of this goal is to take urgent action to combat climate change and its impacts. Climate action means taking the effort to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and strengthen resilience and adaptive capacity to climate-induced impacts. Central to climate action is the Paris Agreement. The Paris Agreement builds upon the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change and for the first time brings all nations into a common cause to undertake ambitious efforts to combat climate change and adapt to its effects. As such, it charts a new course in the global climate effort. For decades now, we've been indiscriminately releasing chemicals into our surroundings. The toxicity that we pour into our atmosphere, how will we recover from it? Aside from international efforts, we need to think of how each of us as individuals can contribute to the overall betterment of our planet. Healing the planet starts with you. We need to start working with intention toward net zero or even negative emissions. Now, what does it mean to be carbon negative? The Kingdom of Bhutan is the only country in the world that is carbon negative, meaning it produces more oxygen than it consumes. It generates about 2.2 million tons of CO2 each year, yet its forests absorb 3 times this amount, creating a carbon sink. This success can be attributed to the country's 70% forest cover and smaller population of only 750,000. In 1972, as Bhutan's neighbors focused on increasing their gross domestic product, in Bhutan the concept of gross national happiness was introduced. The hypothesis behind this being GDP ignored the basic need of every human being, happiness. Finally, the physical scars of our warming planet are all around us. It's vital that we are aware of the intensity of what we're going through. Please pay attention to the reality. Now, circling back to individual contributions, I'd like to mention some efforts taken by our own students. From class 9 onwards, student groups accompanied by a teacher work on restoring the native shola grassland species. Now, why must we conserve the sholas? The sholas are characterized by undulating grassland patches interspersed with thickets of stunted evergreen tree species and are home to a host of endemic and endangered plants and animals. They are vital in keeping water cycles alive as they retain most of the rain they get over the monsoons and release it gradually through the year via a network of streams and rivers that eventually serve the needs of a huge number of human settlements across southern India. Despite the huge ecological significance, they have not been historically protected, since from a commercial point of view, the trees are stunted, slow-growing varieties which produce timber of little or no value and take at least a century to mature. Vast areas were planted over with eucalyptus monocultures over the last centuries, and all the grasslands continue to be taken over by expanding human populations. The Shola grassland ecosystem is one of the most diverse but threatened landscapes of the Western Ghats. Climatic changes have great influence on this forest grassland. These unique ecosystems are being degraded by many natural and anthropogenic pressures. They have begun to gradually shrink due to the introduction of alien plant species and annual fire occurrences. These alien species introduced during British rule have encroached upon the grasslands. Our students from classes 9 to 12 have planted sholas near the main water stream that supplies the institution. While the grasslands let the rainwater and the moisture in the fog run off, in the valleys, the sholas hold on to this water in black peaty soil formed through centuries of decaying leaf litter. Like a sponge, the peat bogs release water all through the year. The grasslands can be saved by planting and restoring forests at a massive scale. Communities can increase ecological resilience and productivity, offering a nature-based solution for building back better. Thank you.
Our school has undertaken a multitude of projects relating to sustainable development. Now, we're going to play a video of all of these projects. This is the Green Initiative.
Nestled in the expanse of the Blue Mountains in the state of Tamil Nadu, the Lawrence School Lovedale is a 162-year-old school that took birth in an idea that Sir Henry Lawrence envisioned in 1856. What began as a tiny seed has now grown into a mighty oak of an institution. We continuously strive to maintain a sprawling campus. The flora and fauna of our campus help us inspire and educate young minds within a natural environment swathed in the Nilgiris biosphere. As part of our commitment to society, various green initiatives are being taken up by the school. Our campus is water neutral. The entire water requirement is met by channelizing rainwater into the 4 reservoirs, having a capacity of 53,000 kiloliters. We have installed a sewage treatment plant with a processing capacity of 180 kiloliters per day, based on the root zone wastewater treatment system. The buildings are fitted with water-efficient fixtures that not only meet IGBC standards, but help reduce flow and consumption of potable water. An on-site solar PV system with a capacity of 30 kilowatts helps meet our hot water requirements. Color-coded waste bins have been placed across the campus towards segregation of waste at source. An organic waste converter has been installed to treat organic waste using the aerobic composting process. The students, under the guidance of the teachers, have planted the native Shola grassland species as part of their contribution towards sustaining the local habitat. They also maintain a herbal garden with over 200 species of native herbs. Social service projects, trekking, campus cleaning, photo walks to explore and appreciate the splendor of nature are some of the activities designed to educate and sensitize our students towards becoming responsible citizens of tomorrow. The Lawrence School Lovedale was awarded the Swachh School Award by Stye for Change. We are a certified IGBC Platinum campus. The legacy of the Lawrence School Lovedale is now reflected in taking the responsibility today for a greener tomorrow and a safer planet.
Besides all of these school projects, a couple of our students from our school have undertaken personal projects in relation to furthering the Sustainable Development Goals. I'd now like to call upon Aditya to talk about his project.
Hello everyone, I'm Aditya. I study in class 10. Speaking of personal projects, about 3 years back, I had the opportunity to go to the United States World Bank headquarters for a hackathon related to SDG 16, Peace, Justice and Strong Institutions. This was recognized by the President of India and he felicitated all of us. This inspired me to do more projects related to the SDGs. While talking to my fellow teenagers, I realized that none of them had a single clue about what SDGs were. This prompted me to write a book that would explain and enhance their knowledge about the SDGs. The book is called Act Now or Lose and turned out to be an Amazon bestseller. It talks about what teenagers can contribute towards sustainable development and how we are the future, and if we don't act towards this, we'll have no future. All the money earned from the book was given for charity, and this book is what I hope is my minor contribution towards the SDGs. I hope my story inspired someone to contribute in their own little way. As Nelson Mandela once said, I might not be the brightest mind in this room, but I will certainly spark the brightest mind who will make a difference. Thank you. Now I would like to call Anaya to talk about her personal project.
Hello everyone. My name is Anaya Dhar. I'm from class 10 and I'd like to share an experience of mine based on animal welfare. When I was little, I used to bake with my grandmom and it turned into a new hobby for me. I've been baking ever since. I have 2 dogs, a Shih Tzu named Zoe and a boxer named Kyra. During quarantine, I had a lot of free time, which gave me an idea to start a small business. I started selling brownies, and the money that I earned was used to feed stray animals in and around my colony. Within 6 months, the number of dogs doubled, so my friends and I decided to get them neutered because there was nobody to take care of them. We raised over 60,000 rupees by organizing a photo shoot and setting up a stall. We also took up the initiative to deworm them and put reflective collars on them for safety purposes. Animal welfare issues have always been important to me, and I think it is extremely necessary to raise awareness on it. If a small group like my friends and I can make a difference, then so can everybody else. Animals do not require our permission to live on Earth. They were given the right to be here long before we arrived and deserve to live happily. I'd also like to talk about a rescue dog that one of our faculty members adopted. Her name is Fuzz. She is taken care of by the teachers and students of our school. Fuzz, in the span of a week, has already become highly attached to all of us. Now, I'd like to call Priya to talk about a personal initiative taken up by one of our faculty members towards sustainable development. Thank you.
Ms. Sonali Ghosh, in January 2022, focused on the second Sustainable Development Goal, that is zero hunger, and she worked on it. She has been distributing food to various destitute homes in and around Ooty in Tamil Nadu. It has been a tremendous help as the people are in need for these basic necessities such as food, water, etc. Another project that ma'am worked on was one in Rajasthan. She interacted with the kids and taught them about the awareness of cleanliness, sanitation, and hygiene. This took place in a school which was located in Siriska in Rajasthan. The school consisted of 70 children and only one classroom with an outdoor blackboard. They had one toilet and one water point. There are 10 students that walk through the tiger reserve every day just to reach school. They take the risk of getting attacked. The government has asked them to vacate the premises, but they choose not to, as they have been born and brought up there. Now I would like to tell you all a little bit about this person named Ricky Cage. He is a multi-Grammy award-winning environmentalist. He was born in Bangalore, Karnataka, and attended the Bishop Cotton Boys' School. In 2018, he released 27 songs under My Earth, each one based on a United Nations Sustainable Development Goal. The album was released in the public domain for entirely non-commercial purposes, with the sole intention of a positive social impact.
Children of the sun, though we may have forgotten, her song is still sung. No need to steal what she freely gives. No need to fear when she only knows love. I feel the pain of a mother forsaken by her children forgotten. How long till we see she is none but us, and we are none but her, and we will always be one heart, one heart.
Om Deo Shantirantariksha Shanti Prithvi Shantirapah Shanti Roshadhayah Shanti Vanaspadayah Shantir Vishve Deva Shanti Brahma Shanti Sarvah Shanti Shantireva Shanti Sama Shantireti Om Shanti 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 Om.
Anne sevgisi
तुझसे ही उभरी, तुझ में है समाई जीवन शक्ति धरती माँ हे
शांति 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 ओम।
To conclude this program, I would like to say, everyone is capable of making a difference. I know a lot of you might think, oh, I'm just one person, what could I possibly do? Well, I'm sure a lot of us who spoke today felt like that at some point too. But here we are, spreading awareness. Simple things can be done in every household that help further at least a few of these goals. You can make a difference, help us make a difference together. And I know I might sound pretentious, but we can make the world a better place.
We would like to thank the headmaster,
Deputy Headmaster,
Bursar,
the AFS Coordinator USA, Mr. Dylan Peterson, and the AFS Coordinator India, Ms. Vibhuti,
HOD English, Thomas George,
Mrs. Sujata Ganeshan, MIC Girls School,
Regan, who gave us creative support,
Mr. Krishna Kumar, Mr. Ramesh, and Mr. Vivek for all the technical support,
our Human Resources Consultant, Mr. Karthikeyan,
and Mrs. Sonali Ghosh, our AFS Project Coordinator.
and last but not the least, to all of you for listening. It means a lot to us.
Thank you.